The Prince and the Sorceress by Ricka Middlecoop. Chapter 2. At the end of Miracle Springs sat the mill. Inside, the miller's daughter slowly swept the floor. She glanced over at her mother, hand grinding flour because there wasn't enough water to make the mill turn. There hadn't been in over a week. The river's ever-lowering level had affected everyone. All of the farms were suffering. No one could keep their personal gardens alive. And game in the forest was becoming more and more scarce. The girl stopped sweeping. "Mom, I'm going to go out foraging today, okay?" The old lady looked up from her grinding. "Brooke, you don't have to do that. Besides, we need you here." Brooke sighed. "Mom, there's nothing for me to do here. And we really do need more provisions." The older woman sighed. "Dear, talk to your daughter." An old man yelled down from upstairs. "Look for some firewood, at least some kindling." "Got it, Dad, thanks." Brooke grabbed a basket next to the door and ran out. Her mother ran after, sticking her head out the door to yell, "Remember to stay in our forest. Do not go past the border." "Yes, Mom, I know, thanks. And be home before the sun sets." "I will, Mom, I promise." Brooke walked through the forest that surrounded the village. The border of Miracle Springs expanded into the forest about an hour's walk in all directions. Despite leaving after breakfast, it was in the afternoon by the time she reached the border. All she had to show for her long trek was a handful of small twigs and half a dozen wild strawberries. She sighed defeatedly, looking into her basket. "The drought's worse than I thought. Even the forest is struggling." Brooke stopped at a row of trees. Every few yards, the same thing. Runes, carved on 4 sides, north, east, south, and west. The trees that denoted the border of Miracle Springs. No one actually knew who carved the runes. No one had ever seen anyone doing it, but every spring they appeared fresh and new. "I'm not supposed to go past these trees, but no one officially has claim to the forest on the other side. I have to at least see if there's anything to eat over there." Slowly, Brooke walked past the border trees, scanning the ground as she had been for any sign of food or kindling, never letting the border trees out of her sight. She saw a clearing off in the distance. In the center, a large, smooth-faced stone that appeared to have more runes in it. Around it grew a ring of flowers. Behind, a small path seemed to be cleared in the forest. Leaving her basket at the edge of the clearing, Brooke slowly approached the stone. Kneeling down, she rubbed it with her arm to reveal the runes more clearly. These look different from the ones on the trees. Slowly, the runes seemed to change into a language she could read. For a second, Brooke felt like the rock was looking back at her. Brooke jumped up, still staring at the words on the stone. "O one of magic, hear my plea, upon this rock I summon thee. Speak her name, loud and clear, the Sorceress will appear." The Sorceress, Brooke thought to herself. She'd always heard conflicting stories about her. A wise old mage protecting the forest from those that would disrupt its balance, or a crazy old hermit who sold pots with strange carvings on them. Brooke knelt back down and continued cleaning the stone. She reached to pull one of the flowers growing around it, but stopped herself. "These are heathers. They're not native here." Which means someone planted them on purpose. She pulled a few small weeds from the garden and stood back up. Again, she felt like she was being watched, but instead of the stone, she felt like the trees themselves were staring at her. She walked back to where she left her basket, except instead of small twigs and even smaller strawberries, the bottom was covered in blackberries, and on top, a bundle of kindling tied together with straw. She picked up the basket, looking around. Where? How? She stared at the stone. Thank you. She curtsied quickly and ran back home, panting when she finally got back to the mill. She threw the door open. Mom! Dad! I've got to tell you something. Brooke, there you are. You picked quite a day not to come to market. The prince has made a decree, a challenge of skill for his hand in marriage. I saw in the woods... Wait, what? Darling, what's wrong? Brooke's mother walked over to her. You're panting, darling. Oh, look what you found. You did a wonderful job. She took the basket from her daughter and placed it on the table. Yes, your father was just telling me about the prince's new decree. Whoever can solve the drought can also pick his bride. End the drought? Brooke looked at her father. Can one person even do that? Brooke's father laughed. Well, we're not called Miracle Springs for nothing. Mom? Dad? Brooke asked nervously. I have a question. Do you remember when you used to tell me about the sorceress in the woods? Beware the sorceress. With one word she can strike an entire forest with blight, her father bellowed dramatically. Oh, stop it, honey, her mother said, putting away the blackberries and the kindling. There's no sorceress. That's just an old wives' tale used to keep kids within the borders of the village. How can you say that? We've met her before. You've met the sorceress? Brooke looked at her father. We've met a sweet old recluse who sometimes sells her wares at the crossroads. What does she sell? Brooke asked eagerly. Jams, chicken feed, the occasional pot. Jams that will heal the sick. Chicken feed that will make your flock even stronger. Pots that stop milk from going bad, her father chimed in excitedly. She sells high-quality products, and if you ask her secret, she says magic. Not giving out your recipes does not a sorceress make, the woman glared at her husband. What does she ask in return? Brooke asked. We've gotten non-magical jam from her a few times. We've always given her flour. Farmer Will brings her eggs. And I've seen people from neighboring villages bringing fruits and dried meats. Why are you asking all of a sudden? I overheard someone talking about her, Brooke said. I couldn't remember what you'd told me when I was younger. I was just curious, I guess. Well, there's no sorceress, Brooke's mother said. She means no sorceress in this village, her father piped up. Okay, thank you. I'm going up to my room. Let me know when dinner's ready. Brooke hurried up the stairs to her room.